All right, so next up, we're going to be unpacking the story of, unpacking this story of user-generated content, and we've got Ismael Hishon, um,
Hishon-Rezaizadeh. Hi, Ken. How you
Razida.
doing?
I'm so sorry
Yeah,
for that.
no worries at
Um,
all. It's a
Thank you
pretty
for
long
joining
last
us.
name.
I love this. These sessions we're having because we're actually talking with real builders, people that are
Seriously.
rolling up their sleeves, and it's really great to have you and join us. So you've got a
I
presentation, so
appreciate
I'll
that.
go off screen. I'll come in about 10 minutes.
Fantastic.
All right.
Thank you, Ken.
See you soon.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Ismael Hishon-Rezaizadeh, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Send Labs. Perfect. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about unpacking the storage of user-generated content on Web3 applications. So let's start by saying, a little bit of what we do in my background. Well, I build protocols as service infrastructure to enable companies to easily integrate layers of UCG into their applications at the protocol level. And we build layers to be composable with customizable moderation and monetization of user-generated content, all done at the actual protocol level on public EVM chains. So let's dive a little bit into what we mean by user-generated content and why this is so prescient when thinking about the future of Web3. So thinking about Web2 applications, many of the most popular applications leverage user-generated content to some degree. And by user-generated content, I really mean anything that is created by one user on an application and is interacted with or read by another user through their client. So this could be anything from a social post on Twitter to a marketplace listing on Airbnb or eBay. I mean, the number of applications on the internet today that have some degree of interaction between their users is innumerate. And in the vast majority of these cases, a single centralized company has the role of being the intermediary or the steward between all network participants. So on Twitter, for instance, we're all writing to a shared data structure, except none of us have access to that underlying data structure. We are rationed access, in essence, from the user interfaces provided by the centralized creator of that platform. Now, so what do we mean by, why would anyone want to actually put user-generated content on a blockchain? And there's really three primary reasons. The first of those reasons is problematic principal agent dynamics. So basically, if we are all collectively, implicitly or otherwise, deciding that a single agent should act on our best interests, there is often a tremendous conflict of interest with what that agent does and what is in the best interest of the people who have delegated them. And this is what we're seeing play out in many popular social platforms. For instance, I think no one here needs an explanation over all of the controversy that has been brought to the forefront with Elon Musk's attempted acquisition of Twitter, or any of the concerns over Cambridge Analytica and their use of Facebook data during the 2016 election. In all of these cases, we've delegated a single authority, a single platform, to steward all of our collective social data. The second reason why you would want to decentralize any type of user-generated content or put that on chain is very simple. It's the financialization of that industry. We have seen with play-to-earn games and with move-to-earn platforms that you're able to drive people into platforms very effectively through token-based incentives. The example of Axes being a very similar application inherently to something like Pokemon Go, and Steppen being, a pedometer, a gamified pedometer. But the vast majority of people enjoy that because of the incentives that underlie it. When you're able to actually encode user-generated content on chain, you're able to tightly couple those incentives to actual actions in your application. So to make it concrete, think about an Airbnb, where the more homes you rent out, the more governance tokens you get, the more voice you have in the platform, the more rewards you get the next time you rent out a home. You can think about an Uber that rewards drivers the more rides they give. Fundamentally, when you're able to actually have the application state and the token state in the same place that can directly reference each other without a centralized intermediary in the middle, you're able to create very interesting self-governing applications with novel incentive structures. And the third, and my personal favorite reason why you'd want to move any type of user-generated content on-chain, is composability. When you think about all on-chain data being in this public open space, it enables applications to be created that are differentiated with incredibly novel user interfaces that merge existing social data in ways that give us blended experiences that we otherwise would not have in Web 2. An example of that would be you could build an application, if all data was public and on-chain, that would read your decentralized Instagram posts and your decentralized TikTok posts and have a central feed for both of those. Or you'd be able to say, I want to follow this person on Twitter, and then I also want to see whenever they make a YouTube video. The asset of all of this digital content is open and can be referenced by anyone, and applications can have these incredibly unique blended experiences when all of this data is composable. So how is this stored today, and how is this being done today? The short answer is the vast majority of applications that use UGC aren't actually putting any of this data on chain. Coinbase NFT platform recently launched a sort of proto-social network that has comment sections, and that data is stored entirely in a centralized Postgres database. When you talk about things like STEPN and Axes, a non-trivial portion of the user interaction data is all stored in a centralized cloud provider. And the way that they're currently doing this type of bridging of incentives is through identifying changes in state in this data structure, the centralized data structure, and bridging over some sort of on-chain action. For instance, if you do some action in STEPN, and you'll receive token rewards, but that's not actually reading and writing directly from a public chain. It's reading through their data store, and then they are issuing you tokens. And we're seeing now a number of projects move towards actually storing some of this data in decentralized ways. While not entirely on chain, there are ways that a lot of emerging projects are trying to decentralize this user-generated content. So one of the more mature of these strategies is to use non-blockchain decentralization. So a lib P2P network, a whole bunch of nodes that have a messaging protocol and can communicate back and forth and synchronize a shared state. This is what Ceramic, for instance, is doing, created by 3Box Labs. And this is what a lot of the early proto-decentralized social networks, the diasporas and the mastodons of the late 2010s did as well. Arweave is actually building a little bit more sophisticated of an approach to this, where they're having their perma-web structure with GraphQL APIs built on top of that for easy querying and reference. But still, that data is not readily accessible from a read standpoint from on-chain tokens deployed on, for example, a public Ethereum mainnet or a public Polygon mainnet. The second group of businesses that are today trying to tackle this problem do so generally through building monolithic single social rails and public chains that are unmoderated, unregulated really, and have no constraints over what's being written into them. These are really some very emerging projects, and they're doing some very exciting things. And while there's, of course, potentially some issues with an unmoderated social rail, it's very exciting to see people trying to tackle this type of problem. And so some examples of this would be DeSo. They have launched their own chain that they have sort of this kind of monolithic social approach to. Lens recently launched on Polygon mainnet, and PP is one of the more early platforms that's similar to this. And in addition, you know, the three main issues that have been presented by all of this are: how do you effectively create incentive structures that drive users into these applications? The monetization of this. How do you build a business on top of open social data? And how do you effectively moderate it, right? If you have gas costs, if you have an open data asset, and you have no moderation, it's historically not a recipe for a great social experience. we in fact are actually building a very different approach to this. Our platform is predicated on the belief that decentralized social necessitates a more fine-grained approach to customizable independent streams of content on public chains, where anyone can create their own layer of user-generated content that has moderation and monetization at the protocol level as a service provided for them. It's a little bit of a different approach. Moderation on chain is a little contrarian nowadays, as is the idea of monetization of user-generated content on chain. But in our belief, those are two important primitives for the decentralized social web and decentralized user-generated content web. And to wrap it up, because I think we're at time, I just wanted to shout out 3 projects that sit sort of above and below the user-generated content layers that we think very highly of. The graph, many people here were probably at Graph Day yesterday. Does a tremendous job with the indexing. Or even Protocol Lab do a tremendous job with the off-chain data storage. And with this Web3 layered approach, there is great research being done in every layer of the decentralized UGC stack.
Well, thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you, Ken.
Love the slides. A lot of dense information, so we actually made them a lot larger on screen. So,
I appreciate that.
Stick around and join us in the comments. Let people know how to get a hold of you.
I will.
Follow what you're doing, and also if you, I'm sure maybe some may want the slides. So if you have a link to that, provide that, or any way to follow you. So appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Barry.
Take care.
All right.